Hey, good morning, everybody. It is Wednesday morning. And welcome to the Mic Drop Show. This is where we talk about real estate, real freedom, and real results. Hey, I'm your host, Mike Morawski, investor, educator, and your favorite deal sourcing, cash flow obsessed guide through the wild world of multifamily real estate. Hey, I have interviews here with 8-figure investors and where we break down deals on capital raising strategies and war stories directly from the field. This is how I show professionals how to go from 8-figure investors to deal breakdowns, capital raising, and all the things in between. So if you're somebody who's looking to go from paycheck to portfolio, this is the place for you. If you're feeling this energy, don't forget to subscribe, smash the like button, and follow wherever you're watching and listening from. Hey, if you're feeling this energy this morning, I'm glad that you're here. If somebody told you about this event, make sure you let them know about it. Got questions? Drop them in the comments or DM me. Your topic might be the next one that we talk about on the Mic Drop Show. We go live every Wednesday. This is your weekly wealth workout. All right, let's get into it. And we'll talk about 3 questions today that we have from people. Hope you have your coffee. So the first question that I got this week was from a listener who actually listened in last week. And one of their first questions was, how do you talk to, or what questions should you be asking co-GPs or GPs when you're getting into a multifamily deal? And I look at that question from 2 ways. The first way is, if you want to be a GP and you want to partner with them. But the second way is if you're an LP and you want to be an LP in a deal with sponsors who are running that deal. As an LP, I think there's a lot of questions that you want to ask. You want to ask questions, first of all, about the market. How did that GP pick the market that they're investing in? How did they underwrite the deal? What exactly that they look at? One of the things I always talk about is when you are looking at your multifamily deals and you are underwriting them, that there's 3 ghosts that you need to look at. And that first ghost is the ghost of the past, right? What has that deal done in the past? What has the performance been on that deal in the past? And where's it at today? So what happened, where it's at today, how is it operational today? And then of course, how are you going to run it? What's that going to look like when you run that particular deal? And how are you going to perform as an operator in that deal? So that comes from track record. So if you're asking questions of a sponsor, ask about their track record. Find out what successes they've had. And their successes are only one thing. The other thing you might want to find out about is what failures they've had along the way, because in the failure is really where you learn. And that's where you grow. I love the quote that people say today, which is, it's not what happened to you, it's what happened for you. Because we can really learn from mistakes and challenges along the way, from our failures along the way. And by asking those questions and seeing exactly what people have done in the past, you really can see how they're going to perform in the future, because you should have learned from those mistakes, right? I know that I've had some challenges in my life where I've had some pretty huge failures, but you know what? The things that I've learned from those failures have been incredible. And the way that I do things differently today as a result of that even makes performance a lot better. Another question you might want to ask is, how long are you going to hold the deal, and what's the business plan along the way? I wrote a book a few years ago called Exit Plan, and Exit Plan talks about how how to get out of a deal, but that you should really know what that exit's going to look like before you ever even get to the closing table. So when you're asking questions of a GP, when you want to be a limited partner or an equity partner in a deal, make sure that you're asking very specific questions. The better questions that we ask, the better answers we get, the better results that we're going to get. So if you are asking questions of a co-GP, or you're looking at somebody to be a co-GP and be partners on a team, then those questions might be a little different, right? You want to get to know that GP a little bit more personally, right? What are their values? What do they believe in? Where's their heart? People out there, they may have things that they want to achieve, but in achieving those things, they might not be kind or take care of other people or other things going on. So, find out where somebody's at emotionally. Find out where somebody's at personally. What do they believe in their life? What's their family life like? What is their personal life like? What do they do on camera, off camera, and how do they treat other people? I think that has a lot to do with who you partner with. I know that I have a number of deals that I'm involved in, and I have a number of partners in different deals. And, that's it. The beauty of the multifamily business is you can partner on a deal with somebody, and if that deal isn't going right or isn't doing right, you don't have to partner with that person again. And you find that out along the way. So again, ask better questions. Tony Robbins said years ago that the better questions we ask, the better answers we get. And, try and get 2 or 3 answers to a question that you ask somebody, and see if those answers line up or if they're different. And the next question that somebody wrote this week, or had DM'd me actually, and I thought this was really interesting, was, who do you usually pick to be on your dream team? Or what would your dream team look like? And as I mentioned a couple of minutes ago, part of building that dream team is making sure that the people that you're partnering with are people who are people that you can do business with, not just today, but over and over again, or people that you can do business with from time to time. I think that picking the dream team starts with you figuring out exactly who you are, what you're really good at. Maybe you're good at underwriting, maybe you're good at capital raising. But when you pick people around you, or you join a team around you, what you're doing is you're complementing who you are and what you do. So if you're an underwriter or an acquisition specialist, and you're sourcing deals and you're underwriting deals and you're doing the due diligence, who's going to handle all the compliance? Who's going to handle all the marketing? Who's going to handle the operations or asset management? Find people who are really good at what they do, and that's how you build a very successful dream team. I know that my business partner, Rochelle, she is really good at all the compliance things, investor relations and marketing and investor communications, and making sure that all the details with legal and insurance and financing are all taken care of. I kind of tend to get lost in the big picture. She's more of a detailed person. And I think we all need somebody, if you're a big picture, a visionary, somebody who's out building your business, I think then that having that person who handles the details really well on your team is extremely important. And then if you're someone who is really good at relationship building and raising capital, you still need to know how to underwrite a deal. And by really understanding the fundamentals and those 3 ghosts I talked about before, the past, the present, and the future, understanding that, because you have to convey that story to a potential LP. This kind of all flows together this morning, these questions, because LPs are going to want to know what the story is and how are you conveying that story to the LPs. And then the third question that I got from people this week was, where are you finding mentors? Where are you finding coaches or people that can teach you? There's a lot of people out there that do coaching, that do mentoring. And I think that you find people, go to events, network with people, and meet people who are good at what they do. What's their experience been, their positive and negative experience? What can you learn from them? And really, one of the important things is, how do your core values line up? I talked about this and the first question this morning, what questions should you be asking of a GP? Where are their core values, and do they align with your core values? Are you going to get enough education, knowledge, hand-holding, and is somebody going to hold you accountable? I think it's really important. I've been in coaching 20 years in my own life, and have a couple of coaches today, somebody that I can call up on the phone and say, hey, how does this work? Or what's the problem here? If I'm underwriting something and a formula is not working, or I'm not getting an answer that I think is right, I have people in my life I can call and ask those questions to. But what I found is that a coach who holds you accountable to your goals and your dreams is somebody who's going to help you continue to grow, right? None of us grow professionally till we're growing personally. And how are you growing personally? I think it comes through education. It comes through reading. It comes through going to events and seminars, meeting people, networking. But finding that mentor, finding that coach, somebody who you are actually going to invest dollars with, and they're going to invest in you. Are they just taking dollars from you, or are they really going to invest in you? I've talked to a number of people in different coaching programs, and I have 2 coaching programs myself. But, I've talked to people in a number of coaching programs that have made comments like, geez, I've learned more on this phone conversation from you than I've learned in 6 or 8 months in a coaching program. So, I think a lot of times, a good coach, a good mentor comes from experience and knowledge. So find somebody who's got that experience and that knowledge that you want to gain and that you want to grow from as a result. So I hope this has been helpful this morning. What I want to say is, if you have questions, if you have comments, if you have anything that you want to know, you can throw them in the chat. You can DM me or send me an email. We'll get those questions on the show. But that's a wrap for today. This is the Mic Drop Show. I hope that you're walking away with a golden nugget, a mindset shift, maybe a strategy, maybe even somewhat of a blueprint to move forward. Maybe it's that you have been thinking about investing in an asset, and I just want to encourage you today that this market is shifting. And if you're somebody who's been sitting on the sidelines thinking, well, when the market gets better, I'm going to jump into business, don't wait. Don't wait much longer, because this market is shifting now and it's going to change very quick. But listen, wealth doesn't happen by accident. It happens by design. So, there's that old cliche that you can, work a job, work at a W-2, have a life, or you could design a life. And designing a life happens by action. So are you clear on what you want to accomplish? Are you clear on what you want to get out of life? If not, you know what? Reach out to me. I'd be more than happy to spend a little time with you and see if we can't give some guidance, some direction, maybe help you build a clarity and a why to what you're doing. So whether you're just getting started or you're scaling up or leveling out, just keep showing up. Keep showing up and taking the action. If this episode has given you value, do me a solid, would you? And just smash the like button, hit follow or subscribe, and share this with somebody who's ready to build a portfolio and not just a paycheck. So if you've got questions and topics, drop them in the comments, send me a DM. I'd love to get them on the show. If you know somebody who'd be a great guest on this show, Starting next week, we're going to be having guests on, and we're going to be talking and asking questions. We're going to use the same format, so we'll still be having 3 questions, and we'll be asking those questions of the guest and having those conversations. So same time, same energy next week. Until then, stay focused, stay cash flowing, and keep stacking those doors. We'll see.